Hello everyone, I'm Lucas and welcome to my channel. Today we're taking a look at Breakaway Matcha's Cold Brew Matcha. I received this matcha as a sample, which they give first-time visitors on their site for free. With this sample you receive 2 packets of the matcha, each making 1 serving of their cold brew tea. This matcha, at full price, costs $19 for a pack of 10 of these packets, or $1.27 per gram. While the loose version of this tea is much cheaper, this is still a lot for tea that is specified to be used with a method that is much more forgiving than traditional matcha. For comparison, here are prices from Sazen, Dense Tea, and Apero of high-grade ceremonial matcha that is close to or cheaper than this in price. So, for today's tasting, it seemed fitting to prepare these 2 packets in 2 different ways. First, we're going to prepare this matcha according to Breakaway's own instructions, which are included with the sample. Second, we are brewing this matcha with the method that Breakaway recommends for hot matcha. This method consists of brewing the matcha in a larger tumbler with a milk frother, which I have here. Okay, so first up we're going to take a look at the cold brew version of this matcha. The only modification I am making to the original recipe on Breakaway's site is I'm going to be using a shaker tin instead of a normal water bottle. I just think that makes a bit more sense if I'm in a kitchen environment. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we're going to need is our vessel and some ice cold water. Alright, so we have our ice cold water here. We're going to first add it into the smaller tin. Alright, so we have 10 ounces of water in the smaller tin here. Now we need to add 1 packet of the single serve cold brew matcha. So before I add that, okay, smells a little bit nutty. I'm getting some like pistachios with a tiny bit of berry, like a very tiny bit. Okay, so the matcha itself is pretty green. Not quite as bright as you'd see in really high-end matchas, but still fairly bright, not too dark, not too brown. And so we're just going to add this into our tin, and then we're just going to combine and then shake for 10 seconds. So let's see how this cold brew matcha is. Okay, more vegetal. You get a bit more of the berry on the nose, and less than the nuttiness from the aroma of the powder is gone. Okay, it's pretty smooth, and granted I expect this to be the more forgiving of the 2 preparations we're going to do with this, but it's fairly smooth. It's not offensive, it's not bitter. There's a small bit of astringency, but it isn't anything to really complain about. It is completely natural in a matcha that'd be in this price range. There's a good bit of umami in this, but also it is a bit sweet. Overall, it's really good, fairly smooth. I did not strain it because the instructions did not tell me to, just to see if that had an effect, and it didn't clump at all, so that's good. So this method worked pretty well overall. There's a very strong creamy aftertaste. So we've seen how this matcha fares when prepared as a cold brew. Now let's take a look at how it fares when brewed hot. Okay, so now we're going to brew this matcha hot. We're going to be using Breakaway's own tutorial for how to brew hot matcha that they recommend for use for their hyper premium line of matchas, but we're going to be using it with their cold brew. Okay, so the first step is to prepare your water. I'm using 165 degrees Fahrenheit because that's what they recommend. And so now that the water's prepared, we are going to scoop the matcha and use a sieve. Okay, so up next, after we've sieved our matcha, the next step is to pour in 1/4 of a cup or 2 ounces of hot water into the tumbler. That's a tiny bit more than 2 ounces, but it should be fine. So after you've cleaned up the hot water you spilled, the next step is to swirl the cup to get rid of any matcha that might have accumulated on the sides and not gotten caught by the water. And then you tilt it, and using a milk frother, you stir. And you do this for around 7 seconds. Okay, and what we're left with here is the matcha the way that Breakaway themselves brew their hyper premium matchas. And I have to say, the froth on this actually looks really, really good. And while the bubbles aren't completely consistent, which I think might be the fault of the milk frother, it is a very good, dense, bright foam. So this has a lot of grassy and berry notes, at least to me. So this matcha, on the nose, you get a lot of berry and a lot of grass. It honestly reminds me a bit more of a higher-end Fukamushi Sencha. So let's give it a taste. Okay, It's definitely nowhere near as good prepared hot as it is cold. I was right about the cold brew being a lot more forgiving with this tea. You immediately get a lot more astringency. There is a bit of umami in there. It just generally seems to have lost more notes in favor of a really, really astringent brew. It's smooth and the foam is nice, but that's about as far as it really gets in terms of drinkability as a hot matcha. It is just way too astringent, especially at the price point, that it's just really not worth it. And I think while it serves well as a cold brew, a lot of matchas are going to do that. A lot of matchas that are in this price point that are intended to be brewed traditionally, not even like this, just completely traditionally, are going to be as good, if not better, as a cold brew than this is. And I think for the price point, that's just kind of not worth it at all. The single serve factor is good, but even then you're paying a lot more for that. And at that point, the price you're paying is a little bit ridiculous. Even at the loose form version, it isn't really worth it. When you take the price of the single serve packets into consideration, that's a ridiculous price to pay for what is okay matcha. It works really well as a cold brew, and the single serve packet is convenient. Overall, despite it being a pretty good cold brew matcha, I would not recommend this matcha solely for the price point. If you get the free samples that they give out, they're okay, they work really well as a cold brew, but for the price, that's just way too much to pay for a little bit of convenience. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more content from me, consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell to see more content when it comes out. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.